I will now shortly, as usual, present the next lecture of your Chinese friend of Beijing, Tiantian. Tiantian founded DNA Design and Architecture Beijing in 1924. It was in 2014, on the occasion of commission in the rural county of Songyang in China, that she decided to dedicate her work to the redevelopment of rural areas. Tiantian belongs to the generation that experienced really China's massive urbanization. The flood of peasants to the cities has devitalized and impoverished the countryside. Not the least was to destroy China's agrarian and social texture. In 2014, when the young Tiantian, she's always young, when the young Tiantian discovered Songyang, 700 kilometers southwest of Beijing, the rural areas were called in China the Forgotten Country. But, as Tiantian will explain us, this rural world still today represents half of China. And the destruction of its economy is a real threat for the food security of the entire country. Tiantian in the Songyang region aims to reverse this trend, to not abandon the rural world, but by no depending of the government investment and of the usual vision of rural modernization. This aim to respond to the needs of local people without the help of the state has led her to experiment which approaches still little used in China. She calls architectural acupuncture an approach that minimizes intervention, relies on community, and plays the card of a specific self-development rather than standard policies. The amazing project that Tiantian will show us are not architectural dreams, may I add. Each of them is a result of this approach, which is both sensitive, working on the people's attachment to the village, to the history, and holistic, co-programming, co-designing, co-building with human and material resources, sustaining through each other the agriculture production, the architectural resource, and the social life. In other words, situated experimental project and a passionate self-development result more than a big government plan. They are more robust, more sustainable, and most of all, most accepted by people. After 10 years of project, some of them carried out pro bono by Tiantian, she can be proud. In the village, this project, a cover bridge that is also a market, a workshop, a tofu factory, have sparked off others. Business have been created. Young people have returned from the cities. I quote Tiantian. Just as acupuncture stimulates blood circulation, we have stimulated social, economic, and ecological circulation in rural Songyang country. Dear Tiantian, you have the words.
Thank you, Marie-Ellen. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I also want to thank the award for the global award for this great honor, but at the same time, it's also an opportunity to contemplate. So let me start with sharing my screen first. So first of all, this is a Global Sustainability Award. And the theme this year is architecture is experimentation. So in the beginning, I thought, wow, this is interesting because they look almost contradictory. But then I think again, this is actually it's interesting that this really is the reflection of how architectural engagement in a rural context, architecture is actually becomes social intervention and social experimentation. So I start with this Songyan story, the project that we collaborated with local village communities and local authorities for over 8 years since the beginning of 2014. And this is a process that we realize that the architectural engagement in the rural is not just by making the process of making buildings, but rather it's really to integrate with the local history context and tradition, heritage, and most importantly, the local community, and to provide a systematic and sustainable solution for the rural issues. So in this way, we adapted this method called architecture acupuncture. It's a way of introducing small cultural public programs into each village context, but really tailored according to its own context. At the same time, this is a remedy to restore the village rural identity and to serve for the community and the village collective, and also to bring in new potentials, social, cultural, economic potentials for each village. So in general, it's actually a mapping system, and to promote, to reactivate the circulation within this county region. For example, you can start with looking into the cultural context of this Hakka village, and the program of a Hakka indenture museum is also the opportunity to restore local long lost masonry building techniques. At the same time, provide a open space, leisure space, especially a summer pavilion for the local villagers and also both the visitors. And we also look into abandoned infrastructure in the rural region. And this, for example, the abandoned Shimen Bridge. Instead of demolish this unsafe structure, we proposed to preserve it by adding a new canopy in the form really reflecting the rhythm of the bridge structure, but at the same time it becomes a collective space, a common space for villagers across the rivers, but also for visitors and for the regional communities, and to accommodate different activities. So a simple structure like this, actually, you can also relate with the traditional bridge, lounge bridge. So there's a context. And at the same time, the lounge, the common space provided by the bridge also becomes an important community meeting space. So in a way, working in a rural context, you're looking into different possibilities, but also, and it's always related with the tradition and heritage, but with a purpose to bring a better future for the local community. And of course, we also look into the natural resource. For example, this bamboo theater, bamboo has very strong root systems, so works as a foundation. And the construction process was very simple, to work with the villagers. And we built this by weaving within about a week of time. So this is the shortest construction time for us, but it instantly creates an open space in the nature, and also a bamboo theater for the local opera performance. And this is also, we see it as organic architecture, metabolic architecture, and in this bamboo forest. And again, there's also, it's a philosophical thinking from the ancient China that to build up this harmony between human and nature. This is the painting from Ming Dynasty, already indicating a space in the nature with the bamboo. Of course, when you're working in the rural, you cannot forget about the agriculture. So agricultural production has become very critical elements, essential elements to look into the village heritage, tradition, and also the way to look into the economic potential. For example, this village is best known for the brown sugar production. So a new brown sugar factory is built to reunite, to integrate all the existing family workshops. Basically, they were working in their family kitchen. And at the same time, this can also upgrade the production quality to increase the product price. So the traditional way of producing these product, for example, like brown sugar, is already a striking performance. And we take this factory, you know, that the space, the production space automatically becomes a sense of a stage, a theatrical sensation to introduce to audience, to open up and to increase the visitors, the amount of visitors and circulation in this area. And it also runs 24 hours. So this kind of production as performance really attracted many visitors to the region in a winter production season. And this factory is also functioning as a live museum to showcase the traditional heritage, but at the same time also functioning as a village community space, cultural space for different cultural programs and community activities. And just within a few years, the price has already increased, and many of the farmers started to plant back the sugarcane plantation. So this change of the landscape around the village is definitely by this, it's not by landscape design, but rather by this social design process. And of course, the increase of income also bring more revenue to the village. So this also happens, you know, basically each village has a certain agricultural production that is famous in the region, or the communities are really proud of. And the tofu factory in a mountain village at the entrance of the village also is a collective operation by the reunion or reintegration of the family households, the family workshops as the shareholders. So they're not just the employees, but they're really, they have the ownership of this collective factory. So it's really generating a new type of a collective economic structure in different village communities. And like the brown sugar production, this is also opened up a possibility for a performance or a live museum to attract visitors, but introduced in the different in the chapters or episodes based on the sequence of different production. And the visitors it's open to the visitors for educational, for cultural purpose, but also can provide a meeting space for both the visitors and local villagers. So in all of these projects, there's intention to introduce a light maintenance. Of course, the project that the building is operated by the villager union, but at the same time, light maintenance can be more sustainable in the rural context. So in a way, the sustainability in rural context is always about the integration of social, cultural, economic, and ecological aspects. And in the past years, we have really seen the young people returning to this region. I think over 8,000 people by now return to the region, and many of them, you know, in a younger age. 30 to 40, under 50 years age, and initiating this new businesses, startups in the region with their experience from the cities. And also at the same time, we also realized that in the rural area, the architectural engagement is not about the making of buildings of new architectures, but really carefully to look into very specific local resource. And for example, in this neighbor county, Jing'an County, where it has over 3,000 of abandoned quarries, we started to look into quarry as the unusual but also specific local resource. So the county has, of course, over 1,000 years of history with quarry heritage. And around the 2000, most of the quarries were closed down because of the safety and ecological challenges, and left with many of these small caves, because this quarry was used to be operated by family workshops, like many other agricultural counties. So quarry, these space were considered as the product or leftover from an abandoned industry production. But we also see there's a potential with this quarry, very, very unique local resource that is able to actually to have the new potential with adaptive reuse, but also a way to restore the local collective memory. So we were working with the local authorities and the village communities, especially the local quarry workers, into this, and by providing this very practical planning proposal to the local government, by saying that these quarries are definitely have potentials, and they can, by introducing a new program based on each quarry's identity, qualities, they could be converted into cultural program, social leisure program. And also with this area, they are under planning for to introduce new buildings for cultural programs. So maybe the reuse of the quarries can reduce the amount of new constructions, therefore can also reduce the climate, the environmental impact by construction. So actually, this is also a very careful engineering process with the geotechnical structures to look carefully with the safety reinforcement of these abandoned quarries, also with minimal intervention approach by introducing only the needed, the necessary reinforcement of safety for the structure. And at the same time, the adaptive reuse of these different quarries is also based by each quarry's own characteristics, and so in a way, it's also acupunctural with the minimal intervention. And for example, the first one is reconverted into a live stage for. It's by the request of our quarry workers to provide a stage after over 20 years. This is they have their own stage again to perform their technique and heritage, this quarrying technique that actually most of them have been working with the quarry for the most of their lives. And it's very intense work, but that's also very strong memory and sentimental attachment to this heritage. And also the adjacent quarry could be converted into a quarry, a space to connect with as a quiet space, but also could be converted into a performance space for the younger villagers, this local young women from the adjacent villages, or as a traditional theater for traditional opera performance. And the design intervention, again, is minimal, only to preserve the original characteristics of each quarry with a proper new program. And at the same time, all these quarries are open, public, cultural space, community space for both visitors and the villagers. And the construction of these quarries are taking much less time. 3 quarries are done within 6 months, and with the overall budget less than making one new cultural building. So in a way, it's also a very economic strategy for the local authorities, also for the local communities, to revive these abandoned quarries. So there's also the potential with the rest 3,000 quarries altogether. So and also the last quarry is also the adjacent one, but has a more a sequence of entry and then a larger interior in a quarry, in a cave. And this is dedicated to the local and cultural and calligraphy heritage by preserving original geometry, topography, the interior topography, and introducing just a very soft membrane surface for activities, for passages, and for the reading terraces. Then this is what we call it the book mountain, and only with the very subtle and minimal introduction of a new walkway, new passage. But then the whole quarry is presented as a monumental space dedicated to our quarry workers and to the local quarry heritage. So we see these quarry spaces are not only, with the design intervention, this is these abandoned quarries or local waste resource can be turned into somehow from negative to positive, to be valuable resource. But at the same time, it's also to restore the collective memory for the local thousands of years of quarrying tradition and heritage, especially for the older quarry workers, that these spectacular spaces are really handmade by these quarry workers, spent in their lifetime, decades by decades, working, and generation by generation, working in this it used to be very harsh environment, and now these could become somehow spectacular, monumental space that's really, and also a welcoming, open and welcoming community space that was, this is really to restore the collective memory and also the pride and honor of these villages. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tiantian, for this amazing project. And same thing, we do expect in the global community, we do expect a lot of you in the future, of course.
Thank you.